Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another riveting review. Today's episode, we're going to be covering Fantastic Four: First Steps. Supposedly, this is the movie that is going to set a change for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm going to tell you whether or not that is going to be any of change. To set the stage up a little bit, it's been a hot minute since we've had a Fantastic Four movie. The last time was Fan4stick, the terrible ass movie from 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, that one was pretty bad, so about a good 10 years, you know. Now, while the previous two films they had before that, from 2005 and 2007, Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer, well, they were not exactly great hits either. You could argue that they, at the time, were the most close to the comics than the other one. You know, granted, Galactus being a fart cloud was kind of dumb, and certain character choices, like what they did with Doom, was not quite something I would prefer, but you could at least see there was an attempt to the degree. And so now we are here in the glorious Phase 6 of Marvel, where now the rights to the Fantastic Four are back in the hands of Marvel themselves, and so now they are taking their crack at the whip. So what... And it's hard to really... The thing was, I have been a little bit skeptical to a degree. I admit that some of the trailers had me intrigued, but as with a lot of things, you start to hear stuff. You start to hear things from various actors. You start to hear things from various directors, writers, producers, people involved with the production of the movie. They start saying all these little things. You start seeing little headlines. You start seeing rumors, things that sort of fit a particular pattern. And it's no stretch to assume that when you are used to a pattern that's occurred in the MCU, because let's be real, the last two phases has not been exactly good. There's only been maybe a few movies that were actually decent, like pretty good. Everything else has been either terrible or, in the best case scenario, like say Thunderbolts, they were just passable to a degree. And what I can say is, this movie is just passable to a degree. You know, when I watched it, I didn't feel super offended. I did not feel a lot of joy out of it, I guess. It was just alright. And that's kind of a bad thing to have for a Fantastic Four movie, especially this is your first time we are going to be seeing these characters in this universe, and it just doesn't feel special. It doesn't have the weight to it. It doesn't have the gravitas to it, you know? Like, to get down to it, I would say out of the four, it really is more of a Reed, Sue, and Johnny kind of story. Ben sort of gets shafted in here. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do. Like, there are scenes he has, but they don't really amount to anything, and it's not much there, you know? Because this movie does a thing where the Fantastic Four have been in the business for a good long while, like about 4 years at this point, and we skip the origin story, which is, you know, fine in and of itself. It's like, okay, we've done the origin story enough times. It's like, we've kind of generally got the idea of it. But I think there's probably ways we could have done this better that at least could have worked better. Because the original movies from Fox, at least with Ben's story, they had something there. They had a character arc of him trying to adjust to this whole deal of now he's a rock monster guy, you know, he's kind of longing to be normal again because he got the short end of the stick in terms of the powers and the effects. But here they kind of just skip over that. It's not really a thing in this one. He's a good supportive guy, and that's great. It's what his character is meant to be, but it just feels like it's missing something, Despite what some reports would say, Sue Storm is not really the leader in this, as much as some people wanted to say. It definitely feels more like Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards is the leader. He comes up with the majority of the plans, and only maybe, I would say, like a 25% of the plans actually come out from like Sue and Johnny, and they don't really. And another thing about there was a thing about Johnny's, he wasn't being a womanizer. It's kind of there, but it's not like it doesn't exist, but it's just it's tempered down. And his storyline is more about trying to convince the Silver Surfer to betray Galactus, which I feel like it is another thing. I don't know why you needed to swap Norrin Rad for Shalabal, because if you were to put proper Norrin Rad in this story, you're really not changing a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. You have to tweak some stuff, like his interactions with Johnny, but otherwise, the story sort of plays out the same, so it just makes the change a little bit weird. There wasn't really much in terms of the MCU humor jokes. There was a couple of, gags here and there, but then again, I don't know, I didn't really feel like there was any that made me, bust out laughing or even get a chuckle. It was just yeah, okay. Certain things felt a little bit forced, like the whole bit of Ben's using the line "it's clobbering time." It felt a little bit forced that that's something they play up throughout the entire movie. Hey, say the line, Bart. And even when we get to that line, it doesn't feel like it has that power. I think it's because they didn't give the actor, they didn't put anything on the actor's voice to make it sound gravelly, or tell him to make his voice sound gravelly, which I think is a very poor choice for Ben, because Ben's voice has to have this deep, rough growl to it, that's always been the case in a lot of the animated stuff. Michael Chiklis did this perfectly well, and he was wearing a goddamn prosthetic suit, he was wearing a whole practical outfit and everything. That was something he had. This is it's just not there. While it's great to have a proper comic accurate looking thing, it's just the voice just does not quite work. And some of the suit designs are just, I'm a little picky on them. Some of them look good, some of them I feel like we went overboard. It's your standard MCU kind of thing where they just get a little too wild on the sauce. As for Galactus and Shalabal, they're there. They are a threat to a degree, but there's not a whole lot done with them. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really feel anything for them, because I felt this was a terrible choice to make them be your first antagonist for this team. It's a very terrible choice, because you're wasting so much potential you have with these characters in basically the first movie, where they are just not there, I don't know. I mean, the performances were alright, I guess. I didn't really like Shalabal's design. I think the CGI is just not really there. I don't like the design. I think giving her, irises in her eyes really is a terrible choice, because it's the only way you're gonna notice, the expression on her face. She just doesn't feel ethereal enough to me. As for other performances, I don't know. Johnny was Johnny, I guess. Sue was definitely a powerhouse in her own right. I would say there are some things that are left over from a previous era of Marvel that I think they've been chopping up and dicing, because I think I could count maybe 3, at least 2 for sure, maybe 3 events where they do have that weird pandering area, because there's a scene where the Fantastic Four are on Galactus' ship. They are running. Shalaba is chasing them. Johnny tries to take her down. Doesn't really do well. Ben tackles her into a wall. You know, he gets a lick or two in. Then he gets, like, knocked aside. Sue then, like, grabs her with her force fields and, like, lays an ass whooping on her and then throws her aside without much resistance, you know, and she's like kind of out for a minute. Then way at the end they have this big fight with Galactus, and Sue is like doing probably the most damage to him, or at least doing the most that affects him, because all the 4, they do get some licks in here and there, but Sue definitely gets the biggest like shot at him, you know. Those were the 2 scenes. There's one scene that was not combat, it felt more dialogue, but I'm debatable on it, you know. I can't really tell. I can at least say that there was a lot cut out, I would say. There was clearly some different ideas going on for the film, you know. I don't know, man. It like some of the actors like Pedro Pascal, I think he did okay. I guess he's just not someone I would have picked for Reed Richards. You know, I think he sort of gets the idea, but I think they lead a little too far in some areas. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, I think she was a good choice for the casting. Joseph Quinn for Johnny Storm, I mean, he does okay, but I'm just not quite used to this version of Johnny Storm, I guess, because it feels like they have the womanizing aspect there, but it's not really there. It's just kind of like they taper that off to the side, and Ben is just there, so I really can't say much about the actor's performance in it. It's just like, it's sort of Ben, but there's not a whole lot we're working with there, you know? Same thing with, like, Shalabal or Galactus. They are there, but you don't really get a whole lot out of them, and that's sort of the problem. Like, there's just a lot of empty, like, moments. There's nothing going on. It's a lot of, like, preparation. There's not a whole lot of action. You know, you get, like, a little montage in the beginning, which probably would have been better for for that to be a movie, you know, and then you get like an action scene, like about 40 minutes in for the Galactus escape scene, but then you get nothing till like the last 20 minutes when they're gonna engage Galactus, and it's like, that is way too much time to be spending without having some action in it. I mean, there's just nothing going on. I feel like that's a big error, especially when you're establishing that we're in a different universe, we've got a bunch of different characters, we established that a bunch of supervillains actually exist in this universe. In fact, they use fucking Mole Man, who was only in his proper comic book outfit for like 30 seconds at the beginning, and then next time we see him, he's just in a suit, and he's only got the little eyeglasses on. You know, we use him for a MacGuffin thing to get civilians out of the way of the chaos that Galactus is going to wreck on the city in the final battle. But after that, nothing. You know, it's like we've established that this world has different supervillains. Like Mole Man, the Red Ghost, the Mad Thinker, the Wizard, you know? And it just sucks that we're not really utilizing this. It's like we just jump straight to Galactus. And it just, you know. But yeah. I don't know. It's just not a movie I would say you would outright hate, but I feel like you're just not gonna really remember it. It's forgettable. It's not like Superman, where there was a lot of hopefulness, there was a lot of sauce into it. Even with the nitpicks I had on the movie, I still feel like I remember that movie vividly. I would watch it again. I have watched it over and over again. You know, like, I enjoy it. Like, I would want to grab the Blu-ray and put that on my collection. But this, I just don't feel like I want to do that. I just don't. It's an alright movie to a certain extent. Like, if it's on streaming, you know, and I'm with some friends and we're like, hey, let's put something on for background noise, we probably put this on, and that's it. You know, and I feel like that's not something you want for a Fantastic Four movie. Or even a movie that you're trying to state is going to be the way you're changing how you're doing things now in the MCU. You know? This is not what you need. You need more than just a meh. You need more than just, it's passable. You need more than that. That's what I think. You need to have grand reactions. You need to have something that makes you go, oh my god, that was so awesome. I gotta watch that like 3 more times, you know? That's what I think. But yeah, have you seen Fantastic Four? What are your thoughts on it? Please leave them down in the comment section below. Also, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below about anything I should talk about referring to the superhero genre. I like reading the comments. It makes me happy. With that all being said, I'd like to thank you all for coming along and watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.